Welcome back to the Richest YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll be learning how to wrap this ready-made bra cup neatly like this using a pattern with a Moulage type of draping. I'll be taking us through how we're going to achieve this in this class. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned till the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to make this, we'll need ready-made bra cup. We're going to be wrapping this ready-made bra cup, and then you need your paper tape. So this paper tape come in different sizes. Actually, this is a small one, but there are some that are bigger than this. So the size is going to be a bit wider than this, and it makes your work easier. It's going to be as wide as what we have on this sellotape. So if you can lay your hand on that, it is better. But if this is what you have also, because this is a commonly used one, this is also okay. So now what you're going to be doing now is to use this paper tape to wrap this ready-made bra cup. So I'm going to be doing this one step at a time. So I'll open this tape now, and then I'm going to start from this edge. I'm going to place it on my cup and then cut it. So after placing the first one, the next one I'm going to make sure that it's laced, so that by the time I'm removing it, it's not going to remove. So the next one that I'm going to place now, I make sure that it's laced on top at least a little bit of the first one that I placed. So you can see what I have here, and then I'll remove it again. Then I'll move over to the next line also, and then I'll make sure that the next line also lays a bit on the last one that I placed, and then I'm going to cut it, and then I'll go over to the next one. So this is what you're going to do till you completely wrap this bra cup. Okay, so I'm placing it like this, and then I'll go over to the next one. I'll place it. So the main thing is, you can see, I hope you can see this, so you can see that they are lapping on the previous one. The next one I place is going to lap a bit on the previous one. So it's important that these lap on each other, because you don't want them to be separate by the time you make your markings and you remove it. So that is why I'm making sure that they lap on each other. There's another way you can do this, which I'm still going to show us, just to secure our paper tape, especially if you are working with a tape that is not so wide like the one I'm working with. So if you're working with this type of tape, I'm going to teach us another way you can just make sure that your tape stays in place for you by the time you're going to remove it. So I'll wrap this completely now, and then I'm going to bring it back to show us the next step we're going to follow. Okay, so I've wrapped this now completely, and this is what I have. So if you notice, I just wrapped it vertically. So to further hold this in place, I'm going to place some tapes around it horizontally again. Okay, so this was how I placed my tape earlier. So now from here, now I'll place my tape horizontally, just so that I can have them in place by the time I want to remove it. So I'll just place few on it. It doesn't have to cover it up completely, so you can place like 2 layers on the hem or 3 layers, and then you go over to the upper part also and do the same thing. So by the time you do this, you'll be sure that your tape is in place and it's not going to remove by the time you want to take it out. So I'm just placing this again like this, and then I'm placing this. So I think I have enough now. So after placing it, this is what the inside of my cup looks like, and this is what it looks like on the outside. So you press it well so that you don't have anywhere bumpy. So once you have something smooth, I'm going to come in with my scissors now, and then I'm going to trim off the excess that I have on this bra cup. So all the excess that I have here, I'm going to cut it off so that I'll have something that is my exact bra cup size. So I'm just cutting this off now. So now you can either make this a 2-piece bra cup or a 3 pieces bra cup, depending on what you want. This is our actual bra cup that we're working with. And like I said, you can just make it a two-piece where you have just two sides of your bra cup sewn together, or you make it a three-piece where you have one on top like this and then you have two below. So whichever you want to work with is fine. So I'm just going to teach us how to do a two-piece first. So to do this now, I'm going to place this on fold. You can see my bra cup. I'm just placing my bra cup on fold like this. Then after placing it on fold, I'll come in with my marker, and then at the midpoint here I'm going to mark it like this. Okay, so I'm going to notice and then I'll mark it. So once I mark it now, I have this as 1 and 2, and this is going to be your two-piece bra cup by the time you bring it out and cut. But if you want to work with a three-piece, so if you are working with two pieces, you just have 1 and 2. But if you're working with the three pieces, from the upper part here of your bra cup, you just go in with your tape measure now and then measure the length that you want the third cup to be, to the third part of your cup to be. It can be 2 inches, it can be 2.5 inches, depending on what you want. So now let's say I'm working with a measurement of 2 1/4. So I'll tape my tape now and measure 2 1/4. I'll bring it here, also measure the same thing. I'll take it here. You just measure whatever it is that you want all around. So you can see how I'm measuring this. Then after measuring everything like this, I'm going to join them together like this. Okay, so I'm going to join my markings together. Okay, so after joining my markings together, it means I'm going to have this as the first cup, I'll have this as the second one, and then I'll have this as the third part of my cup. And before I remove it also, I'm going to place a notch here to show that this is the upper part of the cup, and then this is the lower part. That's the part that I'm sewing to the body, so that I don't get confused. Okay, so after making, just make your important marks. Then after making your important marks, you carefully remove this. So while removing this, make sure you have your pattern paper that you're going to be transferring this to in place. So now I'm just going to try to open this up now, and then I remove this carefully. Okay, so you can see that I've separated my actual cup from my paper tape. So now just gently remove all of this. So you can see that it's not coming apart because I've secured it with my vertical and horizontal measurements. That's the placement, how I placed my paper tape. I made sure that I placed it in several ways so that it's going to stay in place for me. So when you remove it, this is what you have, and this is your bra cup. So now you start to cut out your patterns. Okay, so I'm going to cut the first one first. That's the upper part. So I'm just following this with my mark that I have there already. So this is the first one, and then I'm going to gum it to my paper. So when you're gumming it, make sure you have enough allowance around this, because we're still going to be adding allowance to this. So this is the first one. I'll go over now and separate the second and third one also. So after cutting it out, I'm going to place this also like this, and then this is the third one. I'll also place it like this. So the next thing now is for you to mark out your seam allowance around it. So using my tape rule, I'm going to mark 1/2 inch all around this. I'm going to mark my seam allowance all around it, or whatever it is that you sew with. So I've marked out my seam allowance all around now. The next thing is for me to cut this out, then I can now cut it on my fabric. Okay, so I'm gonna have to cut this out now, and this is what our three-piece bra cup is looking like. So the next thing is to bring in your fabric, cut this, and then you sew them together. So I'm going to cut this out on my fabric now, and then the first thing you're going to do now is to remove your pins. So make sure you don't lose your pattern. Then after removing my pins from the second and the third one, I'll bring it up like this, and then I'll take this to the sewing machine and sew. So I'll join the second and third one first. You can see that they rhyme perfectly before I join the upper part. So I'll join this now and bring it back to show us. Okay, so the lower part is joined now. So now I'm just going to carefully remove the pins now, and then I'm going to join the upper part also like this. So I'll take it to the same machine and also sew the upper part to it. Okay, so I've joined the third part now. So the next thing you need to do now is take it to the ironing table, open your stitches and iron it really flat. So after ironing it flat, you then use it to cover up your bra cup. Okay, so I just used my pins to hold it to my cup now, as you can see, and you can see that it sizes perfectly. So now we have this half inch excess that we added. So you can just take this to the machine. I'll just take it to the machine now and sew it round, and then I'll trim off this half inch so that we'll see what this looks like. So I've taken this to the same machine now and I've sewn it all around. So now if you don't need this seam allowance, you can now trim off your excess allowance and your bra cup is ready. So if you want to add lining to this, it is this same way that if you are going to be fixing lining, of course you're going to need this allowance. So it is this exact way that you're going to cut out your lining, and then you'll be able to wrap your bra cup. So this is the end of this class. I hope you have learned one or two things. If this class has been helpful, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.